If you want to know how important goaltending has been to the Boston Bruins this season, just compare it to how detrimental it has been to the opponent tonight, the Ottawa Senators.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things Spoke to Be. Today is Tuesday, March 19th, and I want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bruins part of your day every single day. Free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app, use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. If you're new to the show, my name is Ian McLaren. I am a lifelong Boston Bruins fan who has covered this team for various outlets for, almost 20 years now. Worked full-time as a hockey news writer for The Score. I've been hosting this podcast since about 2019. We're in our fifth year, which is insane. If you want to follow along on social media, you can find the podcast at Locked NHL Bruins, and you can find me, my hockey thoughts, and dad jokes at Ian C. McLaren. Now, after a couple of days off, the Boston Bruins are back in action tonight against the Ottawa Senators. This was a team that came into the season with playoff aspirations, but they have very much failed to reach even close to playoff contention. And there's one specific reason why that is the case for the Ottawa Senators, and it is quite simply their atrocious goaltending. This team has some star players, as we will discuss further in our preview of tonight's game. They have star players on the blue line up front, borderline superstar, budding superstar in Tim Stützle, but their goaltending has been just devastatingly bad this season. I saw a tweet the other day from someone named T. Raynard, and they wrote, the Ottawa Senators have a record of 26-7-3 when their save percentage is at least .880. That's it. That's all they've needed to get 26 wins this season. Overall, their record is 28-34-4. So when they've gotten below that mark, their record is like 2-28. It shows you how much they have been sunk by poor goaltending this season. Both Joonas Korpisalo and Anton Forsberg have been well below league average. I think league average is around 904. Korpisalo, who signed a 5-year, $20 million contract last summer, has a save percentage of .890 through 43 appearances. Forsberg's at .887. And if you look at Ottawa's underlying numbers, there's something to be said that this should be a competitive team. They rank 10th in shot attempts 4 per game at 5-on-5. They have a shot attempt success rate of 51.27. 4,206 attempts for, 3,998 against. That's good for 10th. That's better than the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Toronto Maple Leafs in the Atlantic as a reference, and much better than Boston. Boston ranks 22nd in this stat on the other side of 50%, 48.03. When it comes to shots for per game, the Ottawa Senators, again, a top 10 team, whereas Boston is 22nd. 1 second, I just got to let Bessie out of So the Ottawa Senators are regularly outshooting the opposition at 5-on-5. They are a top 10 team in that category. When it comes to scoring chances, 4 at 5-on-5, and we look at 5-on-5 because that's where the majority of the game is played. A bit lower down, they're 16th, but it's still better than Boston, who ranks 18th. When it comes to high danger chances, 4, the Ottawa Senators, again, rank 10th. They're generating more high danger chances for than the opposition on a regular basis. They have a 52.09 mark there. The Bruins, they rank 14th with a number of 51.45. So if you look at all these underlying numbers, shot attempts, shots, scoring chances, high danger chances, the Ottawa Senators are more successful than the Boston Bruins at 5-on-5 in all of these categories. What's the differentiator? Goaltending. The Boston Bruins, 5-on-5, at those numbers I mentioned were at all strengths. At 5 or goaltending wise, the Boston Bruins, all strengths, have a second ranked save percentage of 91.3%. Second only to the Winnipeg Jets, slightly ahead of the Florida Panthers. The Ottawa Senators, their save percentage is 88.28, dead last in the NHL. They've had the league's worst goaltending this season, despite regularly outshooting the opposition, getting more shot attempts, getting more scoring chances, getting more high danger chances. That's the reason why they are outside of the playoff picture. Goaltending, goaltending, goaltending. It's the same situation for the New Jersey Devils. They rank 31st in terms of goaltending. The Tampa Bay Lightning rank 30th, but they've been able to stay afloat because of their offense. Their shooting percentage, in fact, which ranks second in the NHL at 11.9. So they've been able to take advantage of their opportunities more than Ottawa, who, with their league low goaltending, has a shooting percentage below 10%. Remember, PDO is looking at shooting percentage and save percentage together. The belief is that teams, or the average, will be around an even 100, and that's where teams will level off. And certainly the Carolina Hurricanes right now, they're an even 100, and they are right in the middle at 18th. Islanders, Kings, 100.2, 100.1, 16th, 17th. So that's right in the middle. The Bruins, their PDO is 102.4, with that second-ranked goaltending and a shooting percentage that ranks, sixth. The Ottawa Senators, their PDO is 32, 31, 29th in the NHL. Their shooting percentage is not bad, slightly lower than average, that 10%, 9.74. But again, their save percentage has sunk them terribly this season. Boston, below average underlying numbers, but they've been able to stay near the top of the standings because of the goaltending tandem of Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman. And who knows, if Ullmark had been traded, Swayman hasn't been that great since the trade deadline. We talked about that yesterday. Keeping that tandem together could be what helps the Bruins down the stretch and into the postseason. First up, though, is a game against these Ottawa Senators, and we'll preview that one more fully here as the podcast continues. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports around here because it is the number one choice of the Locked On NHL network. Why? Because you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests on Sleeper. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, David Pastrnak, will record more or less than their sleeper projections for goals, assists, plus minus, and more in a given game. You can do the same thing with Linus Ullmark, Jeremy Swayman when it comes to saves. To win 100 times your bet, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. So Bruins fans, win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. By using promo code LOCKDOWNNHL, you can get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions do apply, but that's code LOCKDOWNNHL for a $100 match on your first deposit. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Thank you so much once again for making Locked On Bruins part of your daily routine, free and available on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. It's also now available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Let's discuss tonight's Bruins Senators game. Like I mentioned, the Senators coming into this one with a losing record, 28-34-4. These two teams played once before the season. It was a 3-2 overtime decision in Ottawa with Brad Marchand scoring the overtime winner off an assist from Charlie Coyle. Senators, goaltending, very bad. They are coming off a 7-2 loss to the Carolina Hurricanes. They had won 3 in a row prior to that. All overtime or shootout decisions. But then 6 losses preceded those 3 wins. They're 3-6-1 over their past 10 games overall. The Bruins coming into this one 6-2-2 over their past 10. They've won 4 of their last 5, 2 in a row over Montreal and Philadelphia. Now, as far as the Senators go, I mentioned they do have some star power. Tim Stützle is going to be, if not is already, a star player in this league. He's got 64 points in 66 games. Brady Tkachuk, Claude Giroux, Drake Batherson, all guys to keep an eye on, as is Shane Pinto, who has 19 points in 25 games since returning from that gambling suspension. On the blue line, Jacob Chychrun, Jake Sanderson, Thomas Chabot, all guys that you need to keep an eye on. In net, again, a tale of 2 tandems is the theme of today's podcast. Korpisalo, Forsberg, 890, 887 save percentages, respectively. And it looks as though, let's see, I'm not quite sure who is going to be going tonight. But either way, the Bruins have a very good chance of winning and scoring many goals because these guys don't stop a lot of pucks. On the Bruins side of things, I'm seeing Jim Montgomery's confirming he's going with Kevin Shattenkirk and Andrew Peeke on the third pairing. That would suggest that Parker Witherspoon is out, as could be who else has been playing lately on that third pairing. You would expect McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo, maybe Lohrei is the odd man out as well, with Matt Grzelcyk, Kevin Shattenkirk, and Andrew Peeke getting a look in the top 6. Now, as I mentioned, Swayman has been a little bumpy over the course of the 2 games he's played since the trade deadline. I keep saying All-Star break, I think, but it's the trade deadline I'm referring to. Linus Ullmark could be back in net. He's got a .913 save percentage. Jeremy Swayman's at .917. The Bruins well set in net no matter who is starting. Brad Marchand leads the way with 7 points over their last 5 games, including 6 assists. David Pastrnak with 3 goals over the past 5 to lead the way. Stützle on the other end, red hot as well, 7 points, 4 assists, while Brady Tkachuk leads the way with 3 goals for them. I believe that came in a hat trick as well. Overall, the Senators can score. Their offense is ranked 15th in terms of goals per game. The Bruins are ranked 10th. But defensively, 3.53 goals per game they're allowing, whereas Boston's only allowing 2.71. So we could easily be looking at a 4-2 game tonight in favor of the Bruins. Let's kick it up to 5-2 with an empty netter. Their power play is not very good. Ottawa's, they rank 27th. Penalty kill is 30th. So that could be a deciding factor here. They do have a better face-off rate than Boston, who sits at 21st, but should get a boost with Johnny Beecher in the lineup. Now, there was a lot made the other day of Boqvist playing center still on the 4th line with Beecher going on the left wing. The idea there is that Beecher will take the faceoffs, but then they will swap so that Boqvist can get a bit more of his playmaking skills going there from the center position. So it should be a winnable game for the Boston Bruins tonight against the Ottawa Senators. And hopefully we'll be back tomorrow to discuss a win for the black and gold. Coming up, we're going to take a look at the weekly cup check, where we look at the top 5 teams around the NHL and where the Bruins rank among them. eBay Motors has everything you need to level up your ride in 2024. They have over 122 million parts for your ride, and you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. And with their guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home a win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions do apply. And the eBay Guaranteed Fit is available only to U.S. customers. One other quick lineup note before we get into the cup check. James Van Riemsdyk appeared to be skating on the 4th line yesterday. So we'll get some sense here as the morning skate begins, whether or not he'll be bumped down. But he has, I think, only like 1 assist over his last dozen games. So perhaps he needs a bit of a break to get going here when the games will matter most. Looking at the NHL standings, the Bruins currently sitting tops in the NHL in terms of points. 95 points through 69 games. Rangers and Panthers 1 behind with 1 game in hand. So they have a better point percentage. In terms of point percentage, the Bruins rank 3rd behind the Rangers and Panthers, slightly ahead of the Jets and Canucks. When it comes to goal differential, the Bruins a bit further down. They rank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with a plus 41. Florida is number 1 at plus 59. Again, I refer to the underlying stats earlier in the podcast. If you look at 5-on-5, where the majority of the game is played, and look at the shot attempt differential, the shot differentials, and scoring chances, high danger chances, there's like a handful of teams that pop up at the top in most of these categories. And that would be the Carolina Hurricanes, the Florida Panthers, the Edmonton Oilers, and the Colorado Avalanche. Even the Los Angeles Kings are up there as well. In terms of expected goals, that's kind of looking at all of these together. You have the Hurricanes at 1, the Edmonton Oilers, Los Angeles Kings, Florida Panthers, and Dallas Stars. Interestingly, the New Jersey Devils are up there as well. But as I mentioned before, their goaltending has been pretty bad, and they didn't make a move until probably too late by adding Jake Allen, who's been pretty good. The Bruins rank 13th in expected goals with a number of 50.79. If you look at the top, Carolina, Edmonton tied at 56.71. Carolina looks very good since the trade deadline after adding Evgeny Kuznetsov and Jake Gensel. I think in the East, you're looking at Florida and Carolina as the teams to beat. And out West, probably Edmonton and whoever comes out of the Central Division, which is looking like one of the toughest, if not the toughest, with Winnipeg, Colorado, and Dallas all tied at 91 points. Whoever finishes first will get a big advantage, you would expect, because the 2-3 seeds will have to play each other, and they could be, they could end up 1 point behind the top team, but still having to play each other to play a very good team. If the playoffs were to start today, the Bruins would be the number 1 seed, taking on the Washington Capitals, who have snuck into a spot. Tampa, Florida would be the other matchup there. But again, in terms of point percentage, Florida has the advantage right now. So it's looking more like a Boston, Toronto first round. Carolina, Florida, I think are very dangerous teams in the East. Out West, you have Winnipeg, Colorado, Dallas, Vancouver, Edmonton, and don't forget Vegas as well, who loaded up at the trade deadline and could be adding more via LTIR. Nashville, red hot, probably the hottest team in the league as well. So the Bruins are well in the mix there in terms of top 5 teams. Again, goaltending has been their saving grace this season. They've also been getting offense up and down the lineup. They need to keep it going here. They can't afford to drop points because of the fact that we don't really care that much about the President's Trophy. Brad Marchand said that on this very podcast about a year ago. But you want to be playing the right way heading into the playoffs. You want to be facing adversity like they did on Saturday, but overcoming it in the end. And we'll see if they're able to keep it going tonight against the Ottawa Senators. Again, yesterday at practice, it was Boqvist, Brazo, Van Riemsdyk, Beecher on the 4th line, with Lauko playing on the 3rd line, Geekie and Frederick. And then, of course, Marchand, Coyle, DeBrusk, Heinen, Zaka, Pasternak, Grzelcyk, McAvoy, Lindholm, Carlo, Witherspoon, Shattenkirk, although it looks as though Andrew Peeke will get in there on the 3rd pairing for tonight's game, and expect Linus Ullmark to get the start. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode, my friends. Thank you so much for the everyday listeners, especially. Please do hit that subscribe button if you haven't already on your podcast app and on YouTube. And we'll be back tomorrow with a fresh episode of Locked On Boston Bruins, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your favorite team every single day.